This is the original language of humanity as a fact, really. And this language actually helps to stimulate the brain to use more than the 10% capacity which the English dialect limit us to. The Medu language actually helps to expand that, really, and as we go through the teaching, really, we'll see, really, right, that your memory and things does become a little bit kind of stronger. You'll realize the effect of, like, say, how it does stimulate that part of your brain and help you to actually use up more than that capacity, which we've been dumbed down to use what they say 10% when we was given like a full brain capacity to use. Anyway, the second topic that is taught there is the Katibi, which this is where we do like meditation and yoga. In this class, we learn about the cosmogony. That's like the creation story of how existence came into existence. In this class here, this is where we learn our prayers, and these prayers they're more than 75,000 years old. And these prayers are recited actually into the Medu language, and we use them while we're doing our daily Zemzem and our divine days, the holidays, and our ancestral days. We use all these prayers. Now, in the third class, it's a Sun class, which is a healing class. And here we learn how the body functions from a traditional perspective and the techniques of assessing and diagnosing the body. Here we learn to heal ourselves in a natural way as opposed to a Western way where it's more based on chemical-based sort of antibiotics, that kind of stuff which they use, where here we were taught how to diagnose and use natural herbs for healing. The second part of the branch, the second branch, is actually the firefly production, and here this is where the publication, all of our literature, this is where all of our literature and things like that is done, well, basically this is where we disseminate like all the information about the Earth Center. It's all coming through this side of the organization. We have books such as the Philosophy Podium, which is the first book written by a Dogon, and it's the volume 2, yeah, but it's a very well, I would say it's a very stimulating book. It covers more or less like a lot of the topic areas which we kind of we deal with in our initiation, and we also do like the Hejpata, which is initiatic tales. In this book here, we have from week to week you'll hear someone read a tale from the initiatic tale. Yeah. And it's a very good book really to read, really, kind of it's got like a lot of stories in there. So if people are familiar with like Anansi stories and things like that, they're very similar to that kind of little mind kind of intriguing kind of, it kind of helps you to kind of say, just look at kind of things in a natural kind of way, which helps you. Yeah. We also do like the Firefly magazines, Sunnyside magazines, which again really like say there are a lot of kind of stories taken from those, really like from the Philosophy Podium, and most of the stories, the articles in the Firefly and the Sunnyside are actually written by initiates themselves, really, and so they're quite interested. Again, it's going through our subject areas of Yeah. So we also do like the code of human behavior, which is the 77 commandments. This is our, you would say, is our Bible, so to speak, because it's this commandment there where this is where the 10 commandments was taken from. Also, when you hear about, like, say, the 42 negative confession of Mahat, basically that was like these were like someone's actual last confession of the things that he was able to achieve in this lifetime from the 77. So although he achieved 42, he still had about another 35 or something to go, really, to fully master the 77, which we're not able to kind of say to fulfill that journey in one lifetime. And that's one of the reasons why we come back again, really, right, to try to complete our aim and our purpose why we're here. We also do the book of purification. In this book, it actually teaches you or show you all the prayers. It shows us how to purify ourselves before we actually do our prayers and do our zemzem. It actually, it's got like all the stages. It takes you through all the stages of doing your purification. That's like cleaning your body, you know, like preparing yourself before you present yourself to the spirit world, and which is very important, because, you know, we see out there that people go to church and all these different places, and, you know, their intentions are good, but they don't really fully understand what it takes and what is required really for you before you can actually approach the spirit world. So in this book, really, it teaches us all these things of how to kind of say make ourselves spiritually clean before we approach our ancestors and the spirit world. We also have the mandala of Dendera, and this is a map of like all the constellation. This is where you see like your horoscopes and the zodiacs, that kind of stuff. This is where these are all taken from. And as we said, this is like Kemetic knowledge. This is Kemetic stuff, really, right? So this is the foundation where everybody actually came and took a little piece of what they wanted and went away with it, and created their own philosophy from the original. We also have the sidereal calendar, which is the Kemetic calendar, and but with this calendar, it actually shows us where we are in time and space. It gives us our spiritual days which we do our zemzem, the days we honor our the divine world, the days we honor the ancestral world. It's actually as they would say, the most accurate astronomical calendar that there is, that exists, and it's actually based off all the celestial bodies out there, as opposed to like we have like the Gregorian calendar, something like that, which is actually based off what someone just decided that today we're gonna call today Monday or whatever day they chose, and that was as and when really that calendar started. So there's no reference point to it. I mean, just the other day we had Easter, and that day, as we can see, it fluctuates because it's not based off nothing, so they have to move it around to adjust. It's like, you know, you're adjusting the clock, you put the clock backwards and forward all the time, really, right? They do that, and because they have no reference point really in time and space of where we are. And we recognize that it's important to know where we are in time and space so that we can honor our ancestors and know where we are with the other celestial bodies out there. So that is the Firefly production area. And we also have the Ancastor natural healing side. And we have this side here is about kind of maintenance of the body, keeping ourselves healthy, and we have priests and healers who are devoted in preserving traditional medicinal and spiritual knowledge, and so they are the ones that's actually kind of are in charge of this section here, really, right, where we have natural herbs to heal or to cure our ailments that we have out there. We also do health readings for health purposes and for other aspects in our life, and this is done by using the earth energy channels. These are techniques practiced for over thousands of years, by our Kemetic ancestors, and so that service, or that is available out there. So we'll read out the number later on, really, where if people are interested really in any of those three areas there, we'll read out the contact numbers later on where you can make contact with us. There's also the fourth side of it is the project in Merita, and there we do, this is where we're trying to maintain certain organic, it's about kind of installing clean water wells, like doing farming project and doing things in the traditional way, where we're trying to kind of say do for self-development. And so this, there's also restorations of temples and things like that, which is done in this area, and so it's about trying for us helping ourselves, really. The numbers that you can contact us on, really, at the Earth Center is 0207 175 4144. I repeat, is 0207 175 4144. And the email address is inquiries-uk@earthcenter.org. I'll say that again. It's inquiries-uk@earthcenter.org. You can also reach us on Facebook. It's the Earth Center UK. You can reach us also on Twitter, which is Kepta UK. On Instagram, and that's at the Earth Center of UK. And the website is theearthcenter.org. Now we spell center with CENTER, and Kepta is spelled with the KEBTAH. Yeah, so the center is CENTER. We have our school in Coventry, and I'll give you that number there as well. So the Coventry school is, I'm not quite sure, it's 18 Biggin Hall Crescent, CV3 1GS. And the contact number for the Coventry temple is 0247 62 66 859. I repeat, 0247 62 66 859. And the second number is 0730 5995 944. I'll repeat that again. 0730 5995 944. And that's the Coventry School. And we'll give out that information again later on as we go on. We'll just like to give you a proverb of the week. Yeah. And the proverb is, one cannot ask the world to change, but one can change the world, presenting oneself as the image of the world we want it to be, to build with. So I read that one again. It's an interesting proverb to think about. One cannot ask the world to change, but one can change the world, presenting oneself as the image of the world we want it to be. So I think really it's about looking at self, and by changing you, you've changed a part of the world. So if each one kind of say look to themselves really, then we can make changes in our lives. Consequently, we will make changes in the world. And I'll just play you a short interlude of music before we go on to another section of the program.
I can't hear you. Very sharp. One more time, please. Can you please stand up? Really? Together we sing this. Can you take the hand? We go to Please, one more time. Two more, three more.
Ujjayi, and welcome back. And this section of the program is what we call Wisdom of Our Ancestors. And I would just like to read you an article from the Firefly by Neb Naba, Namusa Morandenibig. and it's actually called The Game We Cannot Win. Despite all the pleasures and the so-called comfort that is offered to us by the new society, we are forced from time to time to come out of our naive vision of the world as presented by our leaders. We then ask ourselves if what we live we then ask ourselves if what we live deserves to be classified as a goal of our existence. We wonder if the goal of our existence is to be born and to exploit the earth resources like maggots on a dead and decomposed carcass. We can see that the collective hysteria towards which we are encouraged by the institution reduce us to the image of the being that finds wisdom in a carefree approach to his existence that never stops becoming. Apparently, we are not yet ready to recognize that our spiritual and material identity is made of the identity of the planet under our feet. We can see that it is practically impossible for an animal body to move and inhabit other planets. If the world of the scientists could forget for one moment that it has become the tool of choice of government propaganda, it will repeat to us what it has said before about the Van Allen belt. The solar wind, cosmic ray, and stellar wind that are all so deadly and so powerful that even the wall of lead 10 meters thick cannot stop them. I'm talking about the deadly rays against which the ozone layers and atmosphere are protecting us. If the world of the scientists, just as the institutional religion, forget for one moment their political agenda, they will recognize altogether that only our spirit can cross the border of the earth. This will force us to revise our attitude towards our planet. This system of politics, science and religion knows that what has been proposed to us has no place in a civilization made of individual capable of thinking. And since the product is strange to the individual, this system takes it upon itself to educate the individual and to create in him the need for what he is being offered. And while we are being asked to be happy because we can eat and drink, while others are dying of hunger and starvation, while the religions are teaching us to thank, praise and pray to God every time we eat, while deep inside we know that maybe it's because we are too much, because we have too much that others don't have enough. And while we are being asked to be happy because we are splashing out in the comfort and opulence like pigs in the mud, we can see that we are really no different than the maggots on a decomposing carcass, devouring everything and forgetting that at the end of the carcass also signifies our own end. This new system is forcing us to a game in which everybody is a loser. The principle of the relation between the individual and the society cannot be applied in this system, since the modern society in its principles sacrifice practically all of the individuals, from the leaders to the slaves to the social ideals that in reality does not exist, because all the elements of the whole have been victimized by the principles of the whole. We know very well that the goal of life cannot be only come here, enjoy and end up in the cemetery. We also know that our tendency of believing that by chanting the glory of God and by saying that He is the best and He's unique, and by praying to Him, etc., we will obtain our favors can only be possible if we attribute the human qualities to that God. This attitude we have towards the spiritual domain can only be offending to the divine dominion. It is the religious institution that have educated us into a stupid approach to spirituality. The human being is corruptible. This is why we can praise Him, pray to Him, flatter Him every time we expect favors from Him. And when and even amongst humans, some humans find that offensive and hypocritical. Now, let's imagine our attitude seen by a God. I mean a perfect and incorruptible being. Let's imagine also that the fact that the human being practically needs to be educated by everything, and he will see that there is a hypocrisy if we are ready to go to school to become masons, farmers, street cleaners, doctors, etc. And when it is about a domain as important as our spirituality, we want to believe that we only need our faith and our belief or our religion. We are just playing the losing game, a game that we have already lost. Changing one mind can never be seen as a crime, because if the house is not well built, the faith of the owner that sleeps in it is nothing but a mental disease. So my humble suggestion to the readers is that beside the great book of divine audience, the 77 Commandment, one should enroll in the M-Time School of Kemetic Philosophy and Spirituality. Now, we have another piece to read, a continuation of that, and then we will just have a slight kind of a debate on that.
Ujjayi, to follow on the article, this is from the Sunny Side magazine. Initiation is a traditional rite of passage by which human beings learn how to live as human beings, cautious of how they fit into nature and into the overall existence. For 20 years plus, the Earth Centre has been paving the way for individuals to re-establish their connection to their traditions by providing a unique education that has been untouched and kept in secrecy within the initiation camps across Merita, Africa, in order to preserve its integrity. This education has been made available by the authority of the priests in Merita with the goal of assisting people who would like to relearn their true heritage and who understand the importance of dropping their colonial condition. This opportunity is for those of you who look at the state of our world and understand that there is no other viable solution than to completely reject everything that was forced upon our ancestors by those who enslaved all of humanity. Please consider joining us at the Earth Centre in this mission.
That's the end of your... Yeah, going back to the article that I really write, it's interesting because, as it said here, I don't know if most of us really, like, if they've ever actually thought about, like, the reasons why we're here. And you know, as he was saying before, is it that we just come here to die? Was that our purpose, why we was created, why we was put here? For me personally, that was one of the things that actually brought me to the Earth Centre, because that question always kind of it was a curiosity of mine, that I was wondering, who am I and what purpose did I come here to serve? And there was a lot of unanswered questions, like in other religions and other things that I've actually been in, really, like, say, trying to find a path, really, to say, lead me to a direction which is going to take me somewhere. And as Neb Musa was saying there in the article, we see science, how they use science to try to kind of say, prove the things that they want us to believe in. They create starvation on one side, and they take from one side and give to the other, and they make you feel like the ones who are getting as they're privileged, so they shouldn't really kind of say think about the other side who doesn't have anything. And so the bottom line to it is we're both on that path of self-destruction, really, because what they're giving us is not leading us anywhere. And so having somewhere where you can actually come, like the temple, having the reasons, really, like to have that direction in life where it's going to be leading us somewhere, giving us like our spiritual days, making us aware of where we are in time and space. I mean, it's important, like if you wanted to get somewhere, and you're going to be reading a map, you'd have to first know where you are, and the calendar actually offers that. And so these are some of the things which they actually teach us, really, within our initiation, really, as to say who we are, and trying to plot our course to lead us to a direction that we end up getting to where we really want to reach. As I said, we see how they use the science. They teach us in their schools to kind of say to be lawyers. The so-called our justice system, which basically is who have the most money. That's basically the one who's going to kind of say become on top. As opposed to when we compare like the system that's offered to us to kind of say Kemetic, where there is truth and justice there, really, where right is right and wrong is wrong. And so it's not about how much you have, but like is having values in ourselves. And it's interesting, the bit there with the maggots is like we're here, and the way we're destroying the world, we're kind of taking away from it, not realizing that if we consume everything, we are going to come to our own self-destruction eventually. So it's important, really, that we have a direction. And so the article basically is showing us, really, that the school offers us something.
We're also given tools to navigate through, which are the code of human behavior, which are the 77 commandments.
And the 77 commandments, and could you know a few of the commandments? Could you just
Thou shalt not cause suffering to humans.
Which this is what they teach us basically to do most of the time, really, isn't it? That in order to get somewhere, we're taught like to step on each other, to reach the top of the ladder in what they call success. And so people don't have no reservation for each other. It's about trying to, like, crab in a barrel situation where everybody wants to reach the top, no matter what, at all costs. And this is what the system offers us out there. Anyway, we're gonna come to another kind of part of the program there, really is. So we'll just play you a short interlude and read out. We're gonna read out the studio number. It's www.blessfm.org, so you can tune in. I think you can get us on TuneIn Radio. And the studio number is 07944431366. I read it again. It's 07944431366. 666.
You can text or WhatsApp or call in on that number.
Yeah. All right. And so if anybody have any contribution they would like to make to the program, really, that is a studio number that you can contact us on. And we'll just play you a short interlude again, really, and come to another part of the show.
Ujai, and welcome back to the Wisdom of the Nile show. I'm Katasta, so I'm here with my fellow initiates, and we are now in the international section. And in the international section, this is where we speak to initiates from anywhere across the globe. And hopefully we have an initiate here from the US, and he will tell us where in the US he is. So let's just see if we can bring him online. Ujai Zakao, are you there?
Ujai, I'm here.
Okay, so let's just make sure we got you loud and clear. Just one moment. Okay. Ujai Zakao?
Ujai,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we've got you loud. Could you just repeat so that you could just say something again? Make sure we got you loud and clear.
oh, I see. Yes, I'm
Okay.
Zakao, and I'm in West Virginia.
You're in okay. Okay, well firstly I'd like to welcome you to the Wisdom of the Nile show. And you know, we just want to share this international section, and I want to say that you were recently in Merita, and I had the great pleasure of spending that time with you for a second time being in Merita. And I'm really, really happy to have you on the international space and the Wisdom of the Nile show, because I just think you have so much to share and to give other listeners. So, Zakao, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your time that you've spent in the Earth Center, and from there on we'll get some more of the wisdom that I know that you will impart on us today.
I live in the United States, in West Virginia, very close to the campus of West Virginia State University, where I taught for 31 years and retired in 2017. Originally, I moved in here from southern Cameroon in West Africa in my youth, in the 60s, and spent most of my time here. Went home once in a while, but everyone knows the chaos and the genocide now taking place in southern Cameroon. So it's not a safe place, so I'm here. I traveled from southern Cameroon, you might say spiritually, into the Earth Center, which was in my backyard in West Africa. I made contact with the Earth Center in 2006 or so. And about myself. At the time, I was busy writing a manuscript, a textbook on logic for use in universities across the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought that's one of the subjects I taught all these decades there, and I thought I could write a book that would be smaller and that classes could actually finish in one semester, instead of the fat books on logic that are available and that no class ever finishes. And I was busy at that task. That's when I also made contact with the Earth Center, heard about them, and traveled from West Virginia to Chicago, which is a 9-hour trip by car. And while there, I was immediately impressed. I read their magazine, volume 54 of The Rising Firefly, and it transformed me. It completely redirected my life. Because I saw there problems that I had found in logic and in Western philosophy in general, solved thousands and thousands of years ago. I'd never heard about them. How about that for a start?
Yeah.
So,
You know, it's even interesting when you say you were writing on logic, you know, just the fact that, you know, you were writing on logic. And I know you said you sorry?
yes, it's my passion. It was my favorite subject in the university. My doctorate is in English, but philosophy was my passion. And in fact, the philosopher who inspired me the most and whom I emulated for most of my life is British, Bertrand Russell.
Okay.
And he is the arch logician in the Western world of the 21st century. So, what I say then applies to him too, because there were difficulties in the thinking in these philosophers of Europe, and in logic in particular. What is important here for me is that logic is the method of philosophy. Therefore, the way to understand philosophy, to understand in fact the whole of Western science, is to study logic, because logic is the glue that holds it all together. And yet, errors in logic infect everything. And so I was not just disappointed, but heartbroken that I spent all these years learning this stuff, become very good at it, was teaching it in the universities, and pretty good at that. And to find that it was weak, the foundation was weak, and I had to start looking, start all over again to see what to do with my intellectual life. That's how I stumbled into the Earth Center in 2006.
So you work, I know you recently retired, you were actually a professor at the university in the
Yes.
States that you mentioned, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
I know, you see, when we have spiritual entities like the Earth Center coming out of Merita, out of Africa, many times people see it as something for mainly diasporans, but you are from Merita and you still, became a part of the Earth Center. Many people think, well, if you're born in Africa, you've got it all there. But that seems to not be quite the case. Although it's there, it appears that the influence of the European system has penetrated so deeply that actually many people on the land in Africa, because that part is Africa, are not even looking at tradition. Is that something
Correct.
that you see there?
Exactly. I should be a sample. I'm a specimen for all of you in the Earth Center or wherever to study, because I'm a little fossil. I was born in the 40s, and I am a pioneer of a secondary school in West Africa, in southern Cameroon, which is called Sacred Heart College. I'm a pioneer. We spent 4.5 years studying and expecting to take the Cambridge school certificate to exit high school, secondary school. But when it was our turn, they changed the system and decided to adopt the General Certificate of Education, the O levels, from London University. So we were the first batch to take that exam in West Africa, and to our amazement, my school, our class, topped the whole of Africa. To today, we hold the academic record in the GCE for the whole world, including London University. With London students, certificates, the scores are much higher at Sacred Heart College in southern Cameroon than anywhere else in the world.
Well, that doesn't surprise me coming from my people. We have genii, so wonderful. I'm glad you were amongst that batch.
Well, then, but the thing is, that's the heartbreaker, to discover at the end that what we were doing, we had been ripped away from the culture, brainwashed to be logical. That is, what was in our brains from the villages was erased, and what was put in its place is the material that British children learn in their secondary schools. So we came out here as exemplars of that tradition, and universities in the West were hunting right and left to make sure they recruited our class and students since then, giving them scholarships to Cambridge, London University, everywhere, Massachusetts, Harvard, Wesleyan University, where I went, and so on. So, but then talking about spirituality, which is to say, at the undergirding of all of this, at the bottom, at the foundation of all civilizations, of all knowledge, is reality. That reality is, I'm saying, was not available to me during the university studies. I also studied in Paris in 1970, and it was a kind of relief, because the headaches that I found in positivism, which is the philosophy which is specific to Britain, Bertrand Russell was a champion of that, was challenged in France by the existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre, and so on. So, still, while existentialism was a little bit closer to what my experience was, what our experience was as Africans trying to adapt and to live in the West, is that the existentialism in Europe was a little closer to what we know to be the philosophy of Kant, Dam philosophy. It was a little closer than the British and the abstract thinking which came from René Descartes. Okay, so it was very disappointing because it left many of us very sick. We had sleeping problems. We had mental problems from the conflict of ideas in the head that didn't hang together. You know, those contradictions were evident to us because we were coming from the villages in Africa with memory of village coordination and village harmony, and we came to societies with a lot of crime in the society. We saw the disconnection from people, from each other, between people in the streets in the United States. You know, conflict is built into academia, rivalries, competition, all of that. We felt the negatives of this, even though we are at the top. Our records are there to show. Okay, but we felt it had the negative impact on us of making us just uncomfortable. We didn't just fit. And in 1969, I got fed up and decided to go back home, but they would not accept me. Back home at the University of Yaoundé in Cameroon, the feeling was, rather the conclusion was, he's lucky, he's got a scholarship, the government's fund him, and he's doing very well in the United States. Why would he want to come back here? So they didn't even bother to respond, and they would tell me this later when I went back there to teach. At any rate, I decided to come study in England or anywhere out there, really just to go and study with Bertrand Russell. He was a lecturer at the time at Edinburgh University. That's where I was headed for my semester abroad in 1970. Then he died in February. He was very sick throughout the fall. And when he died in 1970, I gave up and went to Paris, just like, let me just get out of America. I'm saying that if one studies in the university system, rises to the top in that chain over there, and understands what it is, then one sees an emptiness in it all. Too many unanswered questions in academia. Too many. And so I was looking, and volume 54 of The Rising Firefly was just a tip of the iceberg, and I was out. So I just bided my time, finished my years, retired, and during that time, I had some wonderful, very inspiring and enriching, enlightening assignments at the Earth Center.
You know, that you do not hear professors speaking like this. To say at the very pinnacle, at the top, it's empty, because this is what so many people aspire to. They aspire to these, and we're not telling people not to have aspirations. I'm sure that's not what we're saying, but the reality that you've been there for many years, you've sat at the top, you're learned across, European philosophy, logic. You've been through that whole system, and yet you still saw that there was an emptiness there that couldn't be filled.
Absolutely.
That speaks volumes.
The academia was actually the second phase. The first area where I went into in my youth and was looking for enlightenment. That's the word. Because Europeans had conquered the country, and we were a trust territory of Britain, to be guided to independence by Britain. Southern Cameroons we were. And the first area that I went to was religion. I decided to become a Catholic priest. Family supported all that. And I spent years in that secondary school, which was actually a minor seminary by design. Eventually went to what has become the major seminary in the country at Bishop Rogan College in Sopot, in the southern part on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, in the Ambas Bay area. And that's how we made Latin. It's my second language. I still read it, because I was going to be a Catholic priest. But then the contradictions in there too. The refusal to ask questions. When we ask questions, say, don't ask such questions. Don't ask us if Jesus was married. Was Mary of Magdala, his wife, and his brother-in-law Lazarus? All of those things, the contradictions there, were driving us as a generation just insane. We talked about it, but the elders were powerless against all the structures on the ground. The British Grenadier Guards marching up and down the territory, and the British colonial structures blocking, choking, preventing anything in the traditions from developing, from growing, just from expressing itself. So I survived that phase and came out into academia. When I got to the United States, my first discovery was a library. And so most of us did that. We read and talked, and we read, we talked. There were no cell phones. We communicated by letter and once in a while by telephone, which is expensive. And compared our notes, and my generation came to the same conclusion. We had been misled, we had been uprooted, and we had been transplanted, and now we were foreigners at the level of one's very spirit when we went back to live in the villages.
Wow. You know, that is so deep, because one of the things that we realized was that when the elders were still in the tradition, and there were some elders that had made that change into Christianity, what they would do was educate the children. And so now there was this distance there was a void between the parents and the children, because some of the parents still had the traditional way, and the children were now schooled in this modern way. I mean, that may not have been the case with your parents, but I've heard that before, where there was just this divide now which couldn't be bridged because the children had now a Eurocentric mindset. The fact that you've made yes.
I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
You are correct. That was my situation. That is the situation of most of my peers. Our parents, we would find, as we grew older, we'd find that our parents were going to church on Sunday. They took us to catechism classes and did that. And yet, at night, they were there doing the rituals with the priests of the tradition. They were doing that. In my case, my father kept the two so separate so well. It wasn't until his death that I learned that he was actually a high initiate in the traditions.
But he didn't pass it on to you.
This, of course, is shocking to hear coming from Africa, but it has been the norm, this kind of double life in Haiti.
It's almost schizophrenic.
Out in the West Indies, Africans over there had to figure out how to dress Catholic and practice voodoo. So we've been coping like that, but the times have changed. That is to say, the voices have been heard, and the majority of humans that is traditionalists are now being heard. It's out. You can't go out and capture a ringleader anymore and kill him, because it's all over the place. You can see the Earth Center is just one. Many traditional organizations now rising, and being heard and being spoken. And if there is any validity, if what I'm saying can be confirmed or checked, it can be by the fact that opposition is not there. No one is rising over there in the UK to say, hey, we've got something better than damn science. They don't. We've got something more accurate than damn science. No, we don't. Unless maybe they go back to the Stonehenge and go back to the the Druids, and then you might begin to see some real effort to study reality.
And talking about the studying of reality, you are also part of bringing the philosophy podium that Neb Naba Lamusa Morandenibeg was responsible for writing. Is that the case?
Yes, in fact, that was a transforming incident, because I was in my office with my notes. My logic book is drafted. I figured out a way by which I can bring it out still, this time to serve a different purpose rather than to inspire and to sustain academia, Western academia. I was writing that book at the time, and was given an opportunity to join a group of people, editors of the Earth Center, and edit the work, Volume 1. That was from the very beginning. It's the one that is in limited circulation now, the brown copies, with the brown cover. So I began reading that. As soon as I read, this was long after I had read the Volume 54 of The Rising Firefly. As soon as that manuscript came into my hand, the first few chapters, in those days, we were editing by using, we would write email to each other and then have attachments. When I arrived, I said, I think we can use something called, it was called Grand Central, a little business, a little model that Google would buy very quickly afterward. Grand Central introduced a model whereby you could actually edit documents with someone else in the world editing the same document. Collaborative writing, we now know that. It was just, the technology was just coming. This would ease things a lot for us in dealing with the podium. because you could now see the changes of the other person, leave comments, and not have to go back and cancel what they did, or do look at a text and then clip it and then try to paste it back and forth with email. Horrible. Anyway, that Google Docs helped us a tremendous deal. But in my case, I was writing this book and I thought this philosophy podium is the only source with everything that it can illustrate and illumine logic for the rest of the world. So I begged the person who was in charge at the time, I think it was Nehes Menu, who is the Zashmi today and the director of Ndam. I said, could you please ask Master Naba, because he was alive, to give me permission to extensively quote his book in order to illustrate mine, to show the world what a logical mind sounds like. And after a while, the answer came by word of mouth. Yeah, Master Naba says it's okay. You can use his book to illustrate your own. But as I went on editing it, I said, what's the point of writing my book? Nonsense. It's not important. This is not important. Let me help to make his work as accessible to the world as possible. Mine is redundant. And that's been the attitude since then till today.
Wow. And many people would, many people would probably say, well, when they look, when a professor and then, a priest from the traditions, but a simple priest who has come from the traditions and is writing a book, and you would put down yours for him, it just tells you of the stature of the man who Neb Nabala Musa Moran Denibeg was, and the work that he brought forward, because we know it didn't come out of him. He was carrying that message, which is thousands of years old. Hence, the show is called The Wisdom of the Nile, because it's the wisdom of the Nile that he was bringing even until now. So when one can even bow before that, that's humility.
He was a hugely inspiring figure. I know that people were thinking, I'm not the only doctor PhD to have come to the Earth Center. Another one joined us here. Won't name him. Came down here with 2 PhDs to join initiation, and eventually he quit. At the time, well, it didn't occur to me that, whatever I'd accomplished in the West was anything worth using to challenge anybody like that. It was simply, I saw it as a gift. That is, I saw my acknowledgement instantly of him when I read Rising Firefly, Volume 54. I saw it as a gift to me that somehow, whatever, I would later on learn that it was my ancestors who made the gift to me, that someone had given me this gift to actually recognize this and try to get rid of my corruptions and try to learn, because many of my colleagues who came with me backed right out. In 2008, I begged the Earth Center to send someone to come with me to address a conference in Chicago of the Sheikh Anta Diop Association. They are Afrocentrists. And eventually it was Big Bai, head of the organization, who came.
At the time.
We brought many, many copies of the philosophy podium, and the greatest scholars, so-called black scholars, I say so-called because they should be calling themselves Africans, okay? They came to the meeting. All the great people, they are still alive today, right? Dr. Laim Akbar was there, Leonard Jeffries was there, Maulana Karenga, all these guys were there. And they would not even give time for Big Bai to speak, saying that he was not affiliated with their university. And I'm thinking, I'm affiliated and I'm not worth talking. I'm not worthy. I'm not capable of talking to you. Why can't he talk? He's my teacher. No. So I said, okay, I will pass my time to him, and spoke a little bit, and then pass my time to him, and stand up and talk. To my amazement, when he spoke and so on, they had a little a snippet of the great prayer, Ra's prayer, Nuk Ikaupui in Medu, some student of Muata Ashby,
Yes.
Egyptian yoga
Yes.
philosophy, was there and put it up on the projector,
Wow, that's
and
quick.
Big Bai stood up and looked at it and cited it, said, that moving prayer that you put up there is part of our routine. And the effect in the audience was like this paralysis, like people just shut up in their seat. They were sitting around elaborate luncheon tables, They sat up straight, like, what? You guys read that stuff? You do this? So I had continued and said, I didn't come to read a paper to this association this year, but just to introduce this man to tell you that all the work you've been doing in reconstructing Medu from scratch, from little pieces from here, from a piece of the Rosetta Stone or whatever other little stone you found, that's over because the language never died.
Wow.
And here is your channel, your path back to the language. It was an exciting meeting, and there were many faculty from universities, San Diego and so on, just up the street from and etc. there, who said, glad we found you, we'll be in touch, and they were never in touch. Big Bai and I tried to follow up on them, they never were in touch. My point is, my recognition of the Earth Center, of the traditions, and of the great prophet, first we've seen 2,000 years, Naba, was a gift. Because I can't see why I would not have thought like the others.
Profound, really. I think we have some other questions here for you. One moment, Zakao.
Ujahi Hatani Zakao. I just wanted to ask you, what was it about the volume, that particular volume of Firefly? What article in there that inspired you so much?
It was excellence. You see, I have observed in my life and in many others that we always begin the journey anywhere from where we are. Where I was at the time was a logician. Although I was teaching literature, poetry from Africa, literature from Africa in translation, and from around the world, especially Britain and the United States, what my passion was thinking. I was complaining all my years at the university that thinking, the Western thinking was wrong. This kind of thinking that ended up producing imperialists to come over and kill us was wrong. Thinking. And logic said, oh, we are logicians, we can think. But when I looked into logic, I saw that there were fallacies in the thinking of Bertrand Russell. And in Master Naba, there were none. He was always consistent. His truth was consistent. Every page was consistent with the other page. Every great statement he made that challenged people like Einstein was consistent with everything else that he'd written everywhere else. It was just this mind, this genius. It was my first experience to look at the mind of a genius. Damn, I've been trying to be smart all my life, and I've copied all these faulty models, and finally here's one, and damn, I'm already an old man in my 60s. That was it, okay, madam? It was his thinking, his consistency, his clarity, his incredible clarity on any issue. That was what really, really got me into the Earth Center. It's not all that kept me, of course, there are many other things, but that was it. I like that question.
Okay, Duawu. Secondly, I'd like to ask you mentioned that you read Latin. How did you find the route to Latin in Medu?
The route to what?
To Latin.
Oh, Latin?
Yes.
Latin? Well, Latin is a root language for many European languages, certainly for English, and for French and so on. What happened was that I had to toss Latin aside. After reading the podium, I dismissed Latin because Latin itself became a dialect, a remote one. And the farther away you go from the center of the Medu language along the Nile or the Joliba and the Unhappy, the Nile and the Niger, the farther away you go, the more corruptions you will have in the languages. I mean, Jola, Fulani, Fulbe, and Gumanchas are closer. There are more words in them of Medu, whereas in English there are fewer, okay, and more corruption. So Latin had been the source. I had been very proud to understand Latin because it was Latin that helped me to master English. Because as they said when they were teaching us Latin, know your Latin, know your English. That's true. But now I would say, know your Medu, know your everything.
Yeah, pure science, logic. That's pure science, you know. Well, what can we say?
Yes.
Yes. Um, Zach Hauer, I think we could keep you on the program for so much longer. I think we definitely will be inviting you back on because there's just so much that you can share with us. I wasn't sure if there was another question that had wanted to be posed to you. Yes. While you got it, we might as well.
Ojai said, how different was the first edition of the philosophy podium to what's written now?
If it was a question, I did not understand it.
No, how different was the first edition of the philosophy podium to what's written now? Because you said this is the second edition we're reading now, isn't it? So what changes? Was it harder to understand?
Was what hard to understand?
The first edition of the podium, philosophy podium.
Of the philosophy? Oh, I see. Oh, wow. Well, I was hoping not to go there. Well, if you take the first volume, the first issue of the philosophy podium, take the same chapter and read that same chapter in the second edition. We had decided in the first edition, I mean, when you're dealing with, that is, you're encountering a mind like Nebnaba's, humility is kind of automatic, you know, it just comes with acknowledgement of your opportunity. So we wanted to disturb his own writing style as little as possible. As little as possible. Translations have to carry the meaning into the next language, but it cannot be word for word or word by word. But as closely as possible, we kept it to word by word, you know, because at the time I pointed out that you listen to Master Naba in video, you know how he speaks, you know, he's very gentle way of speaking, although he'll raise his voice once in a while, and so on. And we wanted the prose to read as closely as possible to the way that readers and viewers of his videos would experience him in video. Okay. Well, at this time in 2008, when we, and I forget the date when we began to revise it and then, to just enlarge it, add stuff to it, of the writings to it, we noticed that, well, the academic world is not yet reading that. They're afraid of it. They're not reading it because if they read it and cite it in their works, all the citations will be corrections on thinking in science, in metaphysics, in ontology, in history. They'll be just corrections. And that would be just surrender to an academic mind that is arrogant. So we said, we shall write in that language so no one will come and insult it and say, oh my God, look at the way it's written. We wanted to leave no such windows or exits or, you know, things for hecklers, you know. And then now, frankly, honestly, I kind of regret it. But we can say that volume 2 is written in as regular, non-colloquial English prose as possible. And there will be other problems you will have found in it, which will be clear, which is that spelling may not be consistent. It was inconsistent in volume 1. Parlor has OUR in the UK, and in most places around the world that use the English language, they spell it English. They don't spell it American. That's a minor thing, but essentially, we wanted volume 2 to read like, you know, the regular prose of supposedly respectable works anywhere else, and that's the only difference that I say anyone should find between the two volumes, stylistic.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, you've got such a wealth of information and a wealth of knowledge that we will be asking you to come back on the show again, Sakao. We've gone well over this time slot, but it's just so worth it, and it's our show, so it's good. We can we can do what we want. Duao, so much for sharing your deep understanding and knowledge and your journey, some of your journey with us, and we look forward to having you back on the Wisdom of the Nile show if you are willing to return.
I'll be glad to come back. I want to say Dua also, because this is an unusual audience I have. I'm walking away with a lot of energy you fed me. Dua, Nete Dua.
Nete Dua. Iriru.
Iriru.
Ujjayi, everyone. We're back again for this section of international initiatic space, and we have one of our initiates, really, right, who has just started his initiation, and we'd just like to introduce you to international space. Could you give your name, please?
Yes, my name is G.
G.
Yes, that's my stage name.
That's your stage name. So what's your full name?
My full name is colon W George. Stop.
Yeah, and yeah, I'd just like to ask you a few questions though, like your journey so far, really, as an initiate. What kind of actually made sort of like influence you into kind of joining up with the HEC? Was there any particular reason for what he was looking for or something?
Well, for many years I being a Catholic, I felt somewhat lost, and with all the troubles in the world, I always used to look up to the skies and ask for some direction as to where we're going, where I'm going, who am I, what am I here for, and what's the purpose and what's the end direction. And I believe that my questions and prayers were answered because I've been led to certain directions where there has been protection to me in getting to this stage right now. And I'm grateful for being here right now on this journey which I've taken. The journey which to me is very important is re-establishing our space in time, our life in time. Who are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going? And in looking back in time and getting the truth, I believe we can get the evidence to bring forward in time in order to re-establish and to reclaim what was given to us time gone past.
And so how did you hear about the Earth Center?
I heard of the Earth Center whilst I was listening to another station, and coincidentally, I used to call up all the time, trying to tell our people that we need to, have our jurisdiction, we need to have our flag, we need to have our identity, and essentially our language, because the language is what classifies you as a people. Without your language, you're lost. And one day I heard the Earth Center on the station, which coincidentally led me to the same direction of which I was searching and looking for, and I made inquiries, and here I am today.
Yeah. So you, in coming to the EC, into finding your way into the Earth Center, how do you find, like, say, the classes? Like, have you got any struggles? Like, how do you find the topics that's been taught?
Well, because my mind is so full of information with regards to establishing my freedom as an individual, whether I can spread it out to the people. Because of that, I have to create space in my mind to adopt more information, to accept more information. But the information which I've had so far is so critical because it leads me to what I wanted to be led to in the first place. And I'm truly grateful for all what I've learned so far. In the 10 weeks of first semester, I've been with the Earth Center. And I truly would encourage anyone who feel that they're lost out there to, give us a call. Not give the Earth Center a call, give us a call. Because you can't be out there crying, shouting, causing trouble, whilst there is energy within yourself, within your people, within your ancestors. We're there, but you're just not aware of it. And you can reinvigorate that energy by knowing the truth. And the truth is what we're all about. And if you're lost in the wilderness without the truth, you need to be recaptured, or should I say, bring back to life, basically. Bring back to life and to reinvigorate the energy. Once we have the energy between us, among us, we can move forward.
I noticed earlier on that we were speaking about the importance of the language, yeah?
Yes.
And I noticed, like in the class where you came from, there was very similarities in some of the words that you use, as that was very similar to the Medu.
Okay. Well, I mean, I come from Dominica in the Caribbean. I came here when I was 10 years old, and Patois, or the national language, is Patois. That's broken French, broken English, and there was something in there which I didn't quite know. But in the course of learning Medu, I can relate to some of the words, which is inspiring. It's encouraging to know that I can relate to it, and the way Nukapale Kosa, in the certain way that I can perhaps think carefully and place words and sentences in a correct structure. But having said that, the actual language is lost, but it can be regained.
It's always been there, though, isn't it?
That's right.
We wasn't really kind of, until you come here to kind of say, to compare and see the difference, really.
That's right.
It's now that you start thinking, wow, I know that word.
That's correct. I mean, as I've said, certain words resonate in the mind, but you really have to repeat it just to be sure that it is what it is. But I have recognized for sure that the history is there, and it's very interesting. I remember my grandmother and grandparents, the way they used to dress in the national costume, and I didn't really know why they used to dress in that way. But when you really look at it, there's a history. And that history is very important. And for me, of myself, I believe that I need to get the absolute truth as to where I'm from and what I've lost, bring it back to time, and then to claim what's mine.
So learning what you're learning now, and comparing it to what you knew before. As you said, you was in the church before. Most of us actually went through church and state before we get to where we are now. Like, say, having a dialogue with some of the people who are still there in the church. How do they perceive you now?
Well, I say I was a Catholic, and the reason why I say I was a Catholic is that there was a time when I wrote a letter to my diocese asking a question with regards to slavery, for example. And I said, was the Catholic Church involved in slavery? And I wrote that letter 3 times and didn't receive any response. So, if you write to someone or an entity who you believe in or you trust, and you get no response, then the answer is there's nothing to be said. So I took it upon myself, and I decided that the time was right to abandon ship and to search and to find out and to look at the skies and the moon and to say, well, who am I? What am I? Tell me the truth. What is the truth? Put me in the right direction. And then, let us share this information with the people so that they know that there is something out there for them. It hasn't been lost. It's there. We just don't know that it exists. And for the ones who know it exists, who are spreading the good news, then others and the majority should be aware and to acknowledge that we're trying to reach them.
So, like, say, within your family, how are they kind of say accepting you really with your newfound knowledge? I mean, a lot of people might believe, right, that they think that the Health Centre, what we've been given, is like a cult, as some people would put it. But how would you explain that to them, that what you're learning is not a cult, really, it's a spiritual base?
That's right. It is spiritually based. A cult really is, from my perspective, an entity which follows a perceived following away from the truth. Religion is a perceived following. Religion is created by man by the Nicene Council of 324 BC. So it's not the truth from the Creator itself or himself. It's what man, have decided to place upon us. And in my research, I've also read that in several sources that the Sagiga people, the upright people, the dark people, which reference only one type of people. And the interesting thing I've learned now is that Burkina Faso means the upright people.
Okay.
So that's an important connection. And when I hear that, I think, oh, wait a minute. So it's been going back from time that we are the upright people. And because we are upright and tend not to support violence, others see it necessary to encroach upon our freedom, our lands, and tell us what to do and take from us what's not theirs. And even to today, it's happening. There I mentioned Brexit. It's important, Brexit, because if you read and listen to Nigel Farage and his current videos on the Brexit party, just listen to it with your eyes closed, and you will just take out the word Britain and put in the words Africa. He's asking for his sovereignty. He's asking for his freedom. He's asking for his independence.
Yeah, but that's a system that's there, really, right, to kind of misguide people, really, and distracting them, really, right, from the real goal. I mean, we're taught, really, right, say not to get involved, like, in that kind of political agenda, because, they're the ones that set in our goals and our values and everything out there, and they have a way of turning people against each other while they get on doing what they want to do. So what's happening now is basically a distraction, because it's the same set of people fighting against each other, really, isn't it? So
that's right.
It's pointless we kind of say going down that road there, really, but that's what it's about. Is they would use whatever means to entrap us into believing that they're working on our behalf. So
that's right.
Our initiation is about us trying to prepare ourselves, rather than focusing on what they're doing. Is trying to focus on ourselves and setting ourselves, putting ourselves on that path that we need to go.
Yeah.
So the more we get involved in their politics, really, is the less we get far away from ourselves. So
no involvement. I don't vote, but you just have to be aware of what is being told and what they want you to follow, and you have to just push it aside and say it's not for you, and just to follow the truth, basically. And the truth is where we are right now.
I've got a question here. So, how has initiation put you on the path to truth and enlightenment?
It is a question which encompasses the whole of my thinking and the way I wish to conduct my life. I've always tried to be a person of truth, and truth has in the past got me in trouble when I used to work for a company. But with regards to enlightenment, I believe that gaining the knowledge of the Netters and Wasa and Heru and Aishat, that's given me at least the initial stepping stone to the right direction, and knowing that there's more to learn and not the Jesus story. So it's important for us to know exactly who we are praying to, who we quote worship, who we ask for forgiveness and prayers from. Once we understand that there's one true creator, then we know that we're going in the right direction with truth and enlightenment.
But in saying that there's one true creator, that's going back to the kind of, say, the biblical kind of understanding, isn't it, that they give people out there, isn't it? That there is just one creator, but we know differently that there are many creators, or the Trinity really was involved in the creation of. So
sadly, what's been taught has been taught, but those who are enlightened and looking for the spiritual direction will know and find the truth. The Catholic Church has used the Holy Trinity, but then that's just a fiction of the truth. It's just replication. We live in a fictional world, and the reality is fiction. We need to grasp the truth, the spiritual truth, which leads us to our God, our Netters.
So how easy has it been for you to let go of that previous knowledge that you had, really, right, to try to embrace what you're learning now?
Well,
what struggle? What was, like, say, one of your biggest struggles so far?
Again, as an individual, I wanted to seek the truth, because I've with the story, seek the truth and you should be free. And I've always felt that I haven't been free. The mind hadn't been free. My status hadn't been free. So what do you do to be free? You have to search to be free. But in saying that, I believe that there's more and much to be done. In the space of time where we are right now, I need to free myself. And in freeing myself and reclaiming, this is the goal I believe I have to embark on. Not necessarily dismissing the fact that I'm with the Earth Center, but that's the initial direction, an idea that's brought me here.
So what have you learned in initiation that you feel that you could share with others to encourage them to join the EC? What's the positive kind of
Well, the important one of the important things that moved me last week was the one of the prayers, which when translated into English, really took me by surprise, because I was just reciting it, not knowing what the words were in English translation, but the power of that translation, reinstilled that. That guidance I needed, or I'm searching for. It gave me the power to say, yes, stay, continue till the end, and get what you are there for. You're there for a reason. You were guided there for a reason, but just continue. And the other prayer of Ra, that's another powerful one also. But again, the language of Medu. I found it somewhat difficult in the beginning, but it's just adjusting myself and my mind to accepting that I have to draw, if you can say.
No, they don't call it draw. They say you're right.
You're right. Okay.
Because it is a different form of text.
I take it back.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, so obviously we will get things wrong, but I take that back. Yes, to write, and sometimes you just have to calm yourself and understand what you're writing and the basics of the what they represent, and use them in the right structure.
But you realise though, really, right, that you mentioned there, like when you found out the translation, the English translation of what the prayer meant.
Yeah.
To say that prayer in English, it doesn't really carry no power, no substance to it, and so as we said, those prayers are over 75,000 years old, probably and more. And the only way those prayers is going to have any power to them to invoke anything is when they're actually said in that Medu language.
Yes.
And that's why it's important that you learn that prayer.
See, and that's where the corruption is, really, because we're comparing all the time the original to the
English,
current. And because we're so used to the current, we need to find out what it is. And until we find out what it is, we're not satisfied. So once we know, I guess, we can accept it that, okay, that's what it means. Let me revert back to the true quality of it. And let's use that. But in the Medu, in the Katibi and the Sunt, I'm there. I'm learning gradually. But as I've said, because my mind is heavy with information on sovereignty and jurisdiction, I have to sort of somewhat
trying to get rid of that, really.
Yeah.
You got to shake out the whole stuff, really, right, and put the new in.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, it's something which I would continue for sure, and look towards traveling to Merita at the end of the year. For the final initiation.
So you're looking forward to the pilgrim side there?
Absolutely, yeah. I have been to Africa, or Merita, in the Morocco side, but I haven't been to
the Kemetic side.
And seeing all the information on YouTube and wherever, I think we're missing out a lot. We should really bring ourselves back to time.
Could you see any of your family members kind of coming into this organization? I mean,
in trying to convince other people, they are all individuals with their own minds and with their own, direction. If you say something, then for sure you will have an argument. So it's best to let it be, and allow everyone to make their own minds up. But they have to be fulfilled in the sense that something have to grab you and say, this is it. If you're not grabbed, if you're not fulfilled, then you won't be convinced. And until you're convinced, then you know you're in the right direction, you're in the right place.
Yeah, because it's like in an article that we was reading about, like, you just come here a lot of us believe that we just come here, we live, we die, and we accept what we've been told, that you only live once, so it doesn't really matter what you do in this existence. But learning that we have to take control and take responsibility for our action, it make you feel like, more responsible now, innit? Like, you can see your sense of purpose and how much of a hard journey it is really to pursue this initiation, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it means about changing, doesn't it?
It does mean about changing. It means about humility also. It means about your character, how you conduct yourself. You don't react, spontaneously to things that are negative. You have to absorb and think and what you're going to do or what you should do that's positive. You don't throw the punch. You say, well, if I throw the punch, how is it going to affect me at the end? Will I be caught up in arrest or in the police cell for the night? So you have to think twice. Weigh your actions or weigh your perceived actions, and make the right decision.
Yeah, very interesting. So I hope that your journey for initiation, as mine has been kind of forthcoming and fulfilling, and look forward to getting your Kemetic name.
This is one of the important things I'm looking forward to, is to getting my name back, because at the moment I'm carrying a false name. I'm carrying a fictional name. I'm carrying a name that was forced upon me, and I'm giving credit to that name. I can't be doing that anymore.
And as you know, really, your name will carry your destiny of what you actually came here to do.
Absolutely.
So I mean, a lot of us are lost out there, really, and it's nice to see, right, that, I mean, like yourself, just looking for who am I, and I think that's a question probably a lot of people might ask themselves, but haven't done anything about kind of trying to find out really who it is. They're just gone along and accepted that they're like lost sheeps. So,
yeah, I mean, there's
anything like you could say, like like encourage someone, you just start the initiation for, so it's good, like as someone who's just young into it, something that you could say to inspire others, really.
For those who are not already into it, who are out there thinking, what hope is there? We cannot be allowed to be caught up in the current system, because the current system is the fictional system in the way which they want you to see their reality. And their reality isn't the truth. So you have to sit down, close your eyes, look up to the skies and think. Ask yourself the question, who am I? What's my purpose? Where I'm going? What is it all about? Not just, well, tomorrow is going to come, I haven't got a job. You have to think deep, think hard, and think of what they've given you, think of how you're treated on a daily basis, and see how you can improve that. See how you can up your status. But upping your status doesn't mean, going out spending, getting big cars and getting a bigger job. No, it means finding yourself, finding who you are as an individual, and making sure you're on the right pedestal. And until you find that, then we'll still be in the old rush, troublesome jurisdiction.
Yeah, and the time is kind of running short, but we appreciate really like you coming and giving just a short kind of account really like of your journey so far. And in the future, really, when you get your Kemetic name, we'll have you back here again, sitting in that hot seat there, and you can introduce yourself as not as Brother G.
I certainly most powerfully look forward to that time, and I'm sure I think it's under 9 months now, isn't it? How many months to go?
Well, it's as long as it takes you to get there.
Okay. Well, let's hope it's within the 1 year, and I've done 10 weeks of it already, so that's fine. And I encourage anyone who if you think there is no hope out there, bring yourself forward and learn the truth. And the truth isn't singing with your hands clapping, praising God. No, it's knowing the truth of where you're from, where you are, and where you need to go, or where you have to go, or where you should go.
And when you do hear the knowledge, I think really it will resonate inside of you, doesn't it? Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, do all for that, Brother G, and so as we say, the next time you'll be sitting in that hot seat there, you will be. I don't know what your Kemetic name is going to be, but I'm sure we'll be greeting each other really right as Kemetic brothers.
That's good to hear, and I thank you very much, and joy to you too.
Wow. So we just have a short little interlude and then we'll go back to the next section.
So, was that okay?
Yeah, man.
Is my
Ujai. We just have a short, just initiatic tale to read before we kind of conclude the program, and it's going to be read by our sister Kasati. And what is the story this week? The initiatic tale.
Ushai, tell from Initiatic Tales of Heshpatar, the mirror of life. What we love will love us. Lamore grew up with no idea in her head that she was unlucky and only attracted the hate of people. She had frustrated many times to see that despite her efforts, even her best friends ended up becoming her worst enemies. Everything always started well with her, but gradually, when she began counting on her relationships, people let her down. Even her childhood friends did not want to talk to her anymore. Lamore found herself forced to recognize one fact. People did not like her and they were jealous of her. People are always dishonest and against progress. They appear to love us more when they think they are better than us. They have a tendency of closing us in a box. They want to be able to feel pity for us. Lamore spent her life saying that the world is acting unfairly towards her. She saw that even her parents appeared to love her more when she was a child and could not adventure or take decisions for her own life. People are not good. They spend their lives trying to convince you that you are not alone and you will never be alone until the day you stop repeating what they taught you. And you will find yourself like a thirsty camel, heavily loaded, trying to cross a desert of love. The worst comes when you realize that there has never been a period of green pasture and that you were born into this desert. Human love does not open its doors unconditionally. Love only comes to us, to those who call it, and love does not understand its own language. Lamore had stopped making illusions for herself. She was born into a family that was very traditional. Her name, Lamore, is a very old name, and the pronunciation of it in the Goromanchi language carries a very deep meaning. But physically, Lamore means it did not break. People name their children Lamore when they have survived a hard experience. Lamore, the unlucky girl, grew up beautiful and attractive. She got married very quickly, fearing that her love might change his mind. She moved very quickly to the family of her husband. The African compounds are huge and multi-generational, so big families can live in them. The social life in Africa is very solid. It is said that in Africa you do not marry a person but a family. The constant presence of the family of the partner can be felt as an intrusion in the private life. This is until the day we realize that the participation of others' contributions contributes heavily in the stability of the family. Lamore did not take very long before realizing that her mother-in-law did not like her. She found that their personalities were incompatible. She was constantly angry at her mother-in-law and thought that her mother-in-law criticized every aspect of her behavior. The situation was becoming more and more difficult for Lamore. She knew that according to African traditions, she had to respect her mother-in-law and prove herself to be obedient. Lamore also knew that all of these angers and tensions between her and her mother-in-law were making her husband more and more miserable. She knew that she could not withstand the dictatorship of her mother-in-law. She decided to find an end to the situation. Lamore went to see a priest healer. She asked him, after explaining her situation, if he had a poison that could kill her mother-in-law. "She is the only cause of my unhappiness," she said. The priest, after a long silence, said, "I will help you solve your problem, but you must listen to me very attentively." "Oh yes, I will do anything you tell me to do," she cut in very excitedly. The priest presented her with a powder made of different herbs and explained, "It is not a good idea to use poison that is fast acting in getting rid of your mother-in-law, because people will find her death suspicious. This herbal powder will kill her very slowly. You must cook her favorite food every 2 days. Mix a bit of this powder in it. To eliminate the chance of being suspected of her death, you must be very prudent and friendly towards her. Avoid disputing with her. Be obedient. Treat her as if she was a queen." Lamore was very happy to finally find a solution to her problem. She thanked the priest and ran home to prepare her conspiracy. Weeks passed, then months, and every 2 days, Lamore would cook her mother-in-law's favorite food. Lamore always remembered the advice of the priest to avoid suspicion. She controlled her anger, became obedient, and treated her mother-in-law like her own mother. A year later, the house had changed. Lamore had controlled her temper so well that she was never angry. For the whole year, she didn't have a single dispute with her mother-in-law, and her mother-in-law became more and more gentle, kind, and easy to live with. The attitude of the mother-in-law towards Lamore also changed completely. She started loving Lamore as her own daughter. The mother-in-law started talking about the qualities of Lamore to her friends and neighbors. The two of them were now treating each other as mother and daughter. One day, Lamore returned to the priest to ask for more help. "I changed my mind. I do not want my mother-in-law to die anymore. I would like to ask for an antidote for the poison that I was putting in her food." The priest smiled and shook his head. He said, "Don't worry. There was no poison in what your mother-in-law was eating. What I gave you was nothing but ground baobab leaves. You must understand that the only poison that kills is in your head and in your attitude towards people. On this earth, there is no human being that is capable of resisting the call of love. But you must understand that love is not a word. It is like peace. They are both behaviors. What we love will love us, and what we hate will hate us. The human being is truly the mirror of the human being."
Well, yeah, we're just gonna read I just want to say thanks for the story. from the initiative, from the initiative tail.
Yes, of H. Patel.
That's one of the books that you can get from the publishing from the Firefly. We just want to read out the address, phone numbers from the Earth Center again. So if people want to purchase anything and come to the events, our Zemzems, Divine Holiday Zemzem, which is like a communal Zemzems, you can phone up the Earth Center really and I'll find out what dates and times they're going on, and you can come and be a part of it. The number for the EC is 0207. Yeah. We would just like to read out the number again, for the Earth Center. It's 0207 175 4144. The email address is inquiries uk at the earthcenter.org. Center spelled TER. The address is 21 Sunnyside Road, London E10 7BB. The Coventry School is 0247 6266 859 and 073 059 95 944, and the address is 18 Biggin Hall Crescent, CV 31GS. We have an event coming up on Saturday. That will be could you just read it out, please?
Yes, we have a lecture on Saturday entitled Ancestors and Human Destiny. Saturday the 27th of April between 6 and 8 p.m. It's in Peckham at the Hub and Culture, which is 27 Peckham High Street, London, SE15 5EB. You can purchase tickets online at just.tickets.com/events/and-human-destiny.
So what time is the event?
Between 6 and 8 p.m. You can contact the Earth Center on 0207 175 4144 for further information. And in May, we have lectures in Coventry. One on the 12th of May and one on the 26th of May. The titles are Hidden Dogon Wisdom Revealed. The first lecture is Spirituality, Identity and You. The second lecture is The Importance of Ancestry. These events will be held in Coventry at the Prana Caf, 10 Horsefair Street. Actually, it's in Leicester, LE1 5BN. And you can go onto the Earth Centre's Facebook page, the Earth Centre UK, for more information, or the meetup.com/EC-Coventry.
Well, for that. We would just like to finish up really with reading the proverb again, and it goes, one cannot ask the world to change, but one can change the world presenting out oneself as the image of the world we want it to build. And so that's a food for thought for us to kind of say, look at ourselves really and working on self as opposed to trying to work on someone else. And with that, we would just like to say dua to Bless for allowing the He once again, really, to give us his platform in presenting our weekly show, the Wisdom of the Nile show. And so we would like to say thanks to, what's it? Zach.
Our international speaker from Mauno, Zakao.
Zakao, yeah.
We'd like to thank our initiate from the UK, G. We'd like to thank the ancestors and the Neteru for bringing us to this space.
And we'll
And
say
with
thanks to
that-
the Makaru.
We'll say Iriru.
We'll give thanks to Bless. You know, we're eternally grateful. And we'll look forward to, say, being here again next week. And we'll just leave you with this last tune coming out.